Hello, welcome to Upload, the program where we take our collective consciousness and upload it to your mind. To my lower left, right, is Bobby Del Rio.
Hi.
And then
My friend Karen.
below me, but above me in esteem, is Todd Van Allen.
Tucker Carlson told me black people are coming for me.
I am. Oh, I'm coming for you. And
or on you.
No, you see, I wanted to keep it clean. Lewis Taylor with the dirty joke. That's Lewis Taylor.
What?
That hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very erudite former stripper. Okay. So, I will never let that go. I think that's one of the most awesome jobs in the world.
I'm getting in shape for the pole, dude.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready.
Lou,
These are pole dancing.
I have merely one question. Who books that?
Dude, the last show was probably in 86, 87.
Back when you had abs, right?
Could I book you? Could I book you? Like, what do you charge today?
Yeah. It's got to be cheap. It's got to be so
At
affordable.
Moody's birthday party.
Uber, an Uber ride. It's
Okay.
some cake afterwards.
$10 and 2 popsicles from the freezer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get served this month just to reroute it to you for Andrew Moody's birthday party.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Bobby Del Rio, you had an interesting comment before we started about Netflix. What was that?
Oh, you know, this is where I'm at with race relations right now. Sometimes I think that the protests were created by Netflix so they could promote their fucking Rodney King documentary. Right?
Yeah.
It's like they seem to have this like slate of archived, eat up black people movies that are just like, man, like we really need a way to promote these. And it's just like there's a stockpile of content. It's pretty disgusting, right? It's like these issues are content.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Like you anti-capitalist or something? Hey, fuck yeah. Store that shit, make some money, eh? Hold on, I gotta check my jaw.
Like it's, you know, it's like there's so many people making money off this shit.
Yeah.
They're making money off it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a great stat that came out through not just on the backs of the protests, but because of COVID and everything. They've shown that the lower class and the underpaid witnessed a 40%, like people who made of 40,000 or less saw 40% unemployment rate. Meanwhile, the billionaires and trillionaires and the 1% got like 513 billion over the course of the past couple of months.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks, Whitey.
Yeah. Well, and somebody else added into the chain here a really great article about how the markets are actually benefiting from COVID, or like big businesses are benefiting and small businesses are dying because of COVID.
Well, can we add something to that, though, which I don't think is necessarily being talked about? I think that with the internationalization of finance and the stock market, is that white money across the board, or is that international brown, yellow, black money that's bringing like this international capitalist crew that's buffering the stock exchange? I don't know.
Oh, well, if you were to look at some of the biggest corporations out there, some of them are in Brazil, some of them are,
India.
India, China.
Yeah, that makes everything.
We now go to our financial analyst, Bobby Del Rio. Bobby?
What the fuck?
Come on, man.
Know. It's really hard to not be jaded, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just feel like racism is the theme of the week on Facebook. And I guess now we're moving to defunding the police.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the week, it'll be like, if you don't have sex with a fat person, you're body shaming.
But let's talk about there's
Ladies, I
been
am available. Clear your conscience.
Yay. Let me.
I love
before
my
we
wife.
move
I
on-
love my wife. I
yeah,
love
me
my
too.
wife.
I love my wife. Yeah, we
Before
all
we
love our
move
wives.
on.
I love your
Yeah,
wives.
Okay. Yeah.
What?
Okay.
But Bobby brought up a very interesting point. There has been some mention over the internet about movements to defund the police.
Yeah.
And
Let me,
people have been
before we
asking
go
what that
there,
means.
though, I want to make a last point,
Sure.
which is kind of esoteric. But when you're talking about modern forms of capitalism and you're not looking at the progress of environmental degradation, I've always wanted to do, if possible, a satellite photo of pre-conquest North and South America and the environmental landscape, and compare that now, after centuries of the wages of capitalism on the land, what fundamental altering of landscapes has gone on worldwide with the rise of capitalism.
Mhm.
Anyways, I'm now
Is
shut
that
up.
your attempt at being positive?
I'm
Yeah.
not the positive dude, man. That's Andrew. Andrew does positive. I don't.
I don't know, man. I might be out positive this week because, and I have a very controversial stance about defunding the police. But
Oh, here we go.
I'd like to hear
Here we
what some of you guys have to say.
No, I think we want to hear what you have.
You know what,
Let's
though?
start with the burn it to the ground guy. Let's start
Yeah.
with him.
No, as a matter of fact, my stance is going to get me a lot of Facebook rage, which is fine. But I'm actually the opposite. I honestly believe that the Toronto Police Services has been losing funding over the past few years, and I actually think it's a mistake. I think that actually, if you are serious about creating change in the Toronto Police Services in terms of racial profiling, then actually what they need are more funds. They need more funds to hire more people of color, not just on the force, but also in management. Also, the police union has to become more diverse as well in upper management. And we need body cams, so that needs money. If you want accountability by police, then the best thing is to have video proof, and it costs money. And on top of that, I participated in a program years ago in Vancouver when I was living out there, where they would hire actors for role-playing scenarios. And so I got to spend a lot of time every day with these police officer training academy trainees. And it was fascinating, and it was very educational, and it was really important because we would do a scenario where there's a bank robbery. So the scenario is the police arrive and the bank robbers are inside, and they're going to release hostages. And the police officers were trained. Okay, you've got an Asian woman, a black guy, and a white woman coming out of the bank as hostages. What do you do? And they had to train these, they had to make sure that these trainees, these police officer trainees, understood that the white woman leaving the bank could actually be one of the bank robbers, and the black guy leaving the bank could actually be one of the bank managers. And so I witnessed, and it was really crucial, and I really, and I was so glad to be a part of it. I witnessed at the base level of policing, teaching and training police officers about diversity and about how to approach individuals and how to approach people of color, and how do you do it, how do you do a spot check, when they're doing testing, drinking and driving, how do you approach a person of color?
So
whatever.
here's
Who
my
wants to
take.
jump on him first?
No,
I agree.
Before I finish, because I'm going to wrap this up. The problem with that program is all voluntary. So the people going to the program, they're preaching to the choir. They have to make it mandatory. They have to force, not just do diversity training with police officers, but place them in scenarios where you have to approach a black person who's, there's been a robbery at a store. A black guy comes out of the store. he could be the owner, he could be the whatever, he could be a customer.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
So I don't shoot the black fella. Interesting.
Mm,
Interesting.
if it's Lewis Taylor,
Okay.
I
Here's
kid
my-
him.
okay.
Kid 'cause I
Get
love.
in line.
I might get naked in front of them, and you don't want to see me in a G-string these days. So
Hmm? I
Here's
don't
my
know.
Facebook version of what Moody just said,
Hmm.
which I didn't write because I was like, I just don't need people to call me a fucking piece of shit today. You know?
Yeah,
Why
And
did
I-
you join this
I
episode
know.
then?
Yeah, good luck.
No, I want you guys to call me a fucking piece of shit, not strangers.
Oh, okay.
Well, in that case.
You're
No,
a
I
fucking
was
piece
just
of shit.
like a
Okay,
little
continue.
joke, and it was just, you know, for me, sort of harmless. And then I got attacked on the weekend for explaining the difference between systemic racism and systematic racism, and had all these white women call me a fucking piece of shit, right? So it's like, all right, whatever. So today I was just gonna write, you can't just get rid of the fucking police because they killed a guy. Obviously, there's a lot of issues, right? That like black people being targeted, and there's all these systemic reasons and poverty. There's all these things. It's a very complicated issue. The solution can't be, I know, let's remove the police from society.
Mhm.
And everyone's like, yeah, let's write it on chalk on the ground. And then I'm hearing all this fucking bullshit like, people won't commit crimes anymore. We'll police ourselves. Totally.
okay, my whole problem with that take on it, I think it's a bullshit take, because it's all centered around who's newsworthy. Who are you getting actually voices saying, no, what we mean is we don't want tanks. We don't want drones. We don't want assault level munitions in our neighborhoods. We do not want the
Agree.
continued building of private prisons. We have got to, and the question is not more funding, the question is reallocating funding. If you, and comparing what's going on in Toronto, although there are some comparisons to what's happening in the States, is you can't do that. It's a totally different situation.
I don't think, I disagree. I think it's cancel culture. I just think it's like, it's getting fucking out of hand. It's like,
What do you
now
mean by
it's like,
cancel?
oh, let's cancel the police, right? I
No,
was
no,
like,
no. But what I said was whose voice is being heard on mainstream media? Is it the thoughtful folks saying, and this is where I've gone through this with Ebonics, and it drove me crazy when black educators were saying, we are going to use the language these kids speak on the streets to teach them
Right.
correct or white English, right? That's what we're doing. White people went fucking nuts, totally changed the entire conversation to be one of, oh my God, civilization is going to crumble, the blacks are coming. And it was, they would not listen to the original argument, and I'm seeing the same thing here. It is not about defunding the police. It's about, can we stop them killing us? Can we stop treating them like a militarized force?
So I don't drive this tank over the black fella. Interesting.
Unless
Interesting.
it's
Yeah.
Lewis Taylor.
Well, this is allow me to give the white man approach on this. And by the way, I am I am not speaking for my people here. We have been since February when coronavirus hit. We have been hit with so many educational cycles. And when I say that, I mean like things that we need to look at objectively and kind of learn from, and at the very least start a conversation on them. It started with coronavirus, which finally made people wash their hands, right?
Most.
That's where that started. It's like suddenly there's lineup in men's rooms. Like, why is there a lineup? Is there so many people? No, people are waiting for soap, right? And taking 20 seconds out of their fucking day to not get diseased. So then we're seeing with all the money grabs and the that we're seeing from capitalistic ventures and the 1% that they're getting it, and we're not seeing the frontline people who are taking this in the chest, not getting recognition or compensation that they should deserve. Where now the conversation is like, how come nurses aren't getting paid well, and why
For
is that
5
not
minutes.
happening? So yeah, and that happens for 5 minutes. We go, okay, but that's starts a conversation, and then we see what the police are doing, and this the flash that sparked this whole thing was obviously the Floyd murder. And when you see demonstrations occur and then you see the police reaction to that, you go, wait a second, why is that happening? Maybe we should look at that. And that becomes a point of conversation. The same way that defund the police is a catchphrase. It's not like it's like make love, not war. You don't see people just dropping their signs and fucking. It starts the conversation of what do we do? And to Lewis's point, I think that's exactly what the conversation is. I would rather see more money going to social services that help in the long run prevent crime going forward than I would like to see, MEAL Team 6 walking down the street with AR-15s. So
I just don't think people are like, and when I say people, I mean governments are responding to the sort of nuanced, erudite, idiosyncratic conversations about the intersection of race and politics, right? And I agree in principle that you don't just lock people up and beat the shit out of them and kill them and not make everything fine. Like the community needs to be involved. But I just think you've got this sort of anger. It's been 2 weeks now, okay? And I understand people are angry, they want action, and then there's all these knee-jerk reactions to that anger. They just want people to go away, where people are now fundamentally destroying their police departments, right? Or at least cutting them down, or at least what. And if they don't, people are pissed. And for sure, there's people saying, and look, this point is true. We're getting information through the media, okay? But at the same time, the politicians are watching the media, okay?
Yeah.
So it's like they're getting this sort of distorted view, and they're responding in a distorted way. And there's lots of people, I think, who would be happy if all the cops were gone. No more police.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, there are places in this world where there is no police force, and those places are it's a living hell for if a woman gets raped, nothing's going to happen. If there's certain countries and places in this world where not only is there no police force, or the police force is incredibly corrupt and is a force of evil, and you realize how important it is to have a working, functioning police force where police officers are doing their job and upholding your civil rights, because that's kind of their job, actually, is to protect our rights.
That's arguable.
But that's what they're supposed to do.
To that point, though, I mean, what we're seeing is a lack of basic training, because for a lot of the police service, there are kids playing Animal Crossing for longer than it takes to become a policeman, right? A police officer. And the point was raised that when I first saw this coming up is that defunding the police just means reallocation of funds into the hands of people that know how to do what the cops are currently doing and not equipped for. They didn't sign up for it. They become social workers with pistols.
This is what I'm talking about. To add to what you're saying, training is so important.
Yeah.
Spend more money on training and make it mandatory to do work with performers, to be in situations, to understand exactly how you're supposed to police.
So I'm
then can we then also have a screening process so that when we're getting photos of the platoon, we're not seeing this symbol going on all over the place? Could
absolutely.
we get that happen?
Okay, I'll do my best here. It's this Derek Chauvin piece of shit, right? This cop, right, who killed George Floyd. It's not like he didn't know. It's not like he was like, oh, I shouldn't have had my knee on the guy's fucking neck while he's crying to his mother for almost 9 minutes. Oh, I should take a course. There's always gonna be motherfuckers, right? So I guess it's an interesting issue because there's so many sort of socioeconomic factors at play, so many political factors at play, but at the end of the day, some humans are pieces of shit, right? So how do you sort of stop those pieces of shit from having the power to kill innocent people?
I would agree. And on top of that, you could be a good police officer. You could be somebody who's moral and understands the law. But if your president orders you to break up a peaceful protest with, tear gas and rubber bullets so that your president can hold up a flipping Bible in front of a church, there's not much you can do other than quit.
The interesting thing about this, like when you talk about bad people, well, there'll always be, people that are a piece of shit. Yeah, but if you're talking about policing the streets, where the maximum amount of harm that those people, I've been in prison. Maybe the most body counts that I'd run up that an individual had committed was like two or three. Most of the people that are killing people out on the street kill 2 or 3. And this is a rhetorical question because it's age old. What are you suggesting we do to those in the upper echelons of society who are responsible for the death of millions? What kind of policing system are you describing? And I can't hold to the conversation that you're projecting, that you're putting out there, if we're also not looking at, okay, how do we prevent the millions and millions of deaths that pieces of shit at the top are allowed to commit, right? And as far as doing away with the police, it's not possible in our system. We can't, but it's the system. And I'm not saying there's always a force, like there are arguments going on in neighborhoods, and this is where I would prefer to listen to the people from those neighborhoods talking about their police, rather than us who have never come close to those neighborhoods. But what I've heard from people on the ground is that those police officers in North America are what you are describing when you're talking about places around the world, right, where life can be a living hell.
Before we close out this issue, the thing I wanted to add to what you're saying, Louis, because it's very true. First off, the police, the issues with police and communities is different all over America, even within states. It's very different. And there are, some great police chiefs out there. There are horrible police chiefs out there. There's some really good police officers. There are bad police officers. There was a really good last week tonight with John Oliver talking about police, and this was done like many years ago, or a while ago, where he talked about there's also the issue of police officers who do something bad in one community and then they just resign and move to another community.
Yeah.
Right.
So they'll abuse people. They'll do
that is
whatever.
happening right now. Apparently, I haven't done any sort of deep dive on this, but I was just skimming through headlines. And apparently, Florida, someplace in Florida, the dumping ground of everything, have taken up the mantle. Again, this is uncorroborated. But the Buffalo police officers that decided to quit in protest for knocking down that 75-year-old guy trying to return a helmet, who got a nice Antifa shout out from the president, by the way. Florida is taking anyone who got fired or quit because they, seriously injured a geriatric.
And they have a lot of Hispanics.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a problem. Ultimately, though, and I think this is where both Louis and I absolutely agree. There needs to be much more accountability, like just bottom line. And some of it it's not even money. Some of it is making sure police officers can't move from one jurisdiction to another, making sure that acts of violence are recorded. In the John Oliver piece, someone said, look, we know more information about how many people walk into an emergency room with a broken arm than we do about whether a police officer has discharged their weapon. Like there are official records in hospitals or whatever that, that are way more accurate than, with the behavior of police. And so
Can I
that's,
ask a question?
Sure.
I just want to say though that Andrew, let's never do this agreeing thing again.
oh God,
Like
please.
I
don't know how that happened.
Really hurt me.
I want to ask a question here. I want to ask a question, and I don't know, is this a different topic? Is it related to the topic? Because I just feel like it's a big part of it, and I did bring it up, but I feel like it's society is evolving in this sort of cancel culture way, where if you just get enough people pissed off, it's like society has to do something, right? It's like, is this a precarious line, or is this sort of the way society should be? Like, is it, if enough people are angry, we have to change? What if the wrong people are angry? Like, I guess I don't know what's the balance here with our society.
Bobby, you know what? The wrong people got angry and elected Donald Trump.
Yep.
Depends on your point of view.
But this is my point, right? It's like, really? That guy's in charge of the world?
A lot of people would disagree with you, though, and think he's doing a fabulous job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, essentially throughout history, the ones that have decided good and wrong are the ones that had a better Uzi.
And ultimately, there's always going to be a percentage of people in your society who have no problem with dictators. They just don't. They just actually kind of like the idea. And they like the idea of strongman politics, and they and these people can be your coworkers. They can be family members. They can be.
The beautiful part about all this is that when you see, like, the tubby guys with AR-15 screaming about the fact that they need guns if the government is ever going to come in and muscle them around, the government is doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why are they just standing around having a snack?
Mm-hmm.
Like this should be the thing that infuriates them. The only reason that it's not is not because they care about the Constitution. It's not because they care about the Second Amendment right. It is literally because it's not their side that this is happening to.
Well, don't forget the Boogaloo movement, though.
Which I'm sad to see.
Now,
because I really like that album by Gianluca Palma and the Blue Beaters. I really do.
I'm going to have to check that one day.
It's Italian Scots, gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm going to put up a little post along with this show just to give it a little taste of the Boogaloo. But a little taste. But yeah, so tell us, Louis, what have you discovered about this Boogaloo movement?
The Boogaloo movement is one of those confusing terms, like the Antifa term that everyone's throwing around. It is not a card-carrying unionized bunch. It's just a loosely affiliated, philosophically fractured group of white guys some of who believe that the next revolution is around the corner, right? Some of them are believers in the Turner Chronicles. It was an online novel or treatise written by some dude that wrote a novel or a fiction of the upcoming white overthrow of the Jewish hierarchy and their black foot soldiers, right, in this bloody revolution. Some of them are followers of that who are participating in these protests in basically the same, carrying out the same actions as agent provocateurs, right? Going in and rioting and busting up shops and all of the shit, not in support of Black Lives Matters, but in order to bring on the revolution, the anti-government revolution.
So they're like piggybacking on the Black Lives Matters movement to
Yeah,
just
they're using it.
fuck shit up.
Yeah, they're using it.
So they're really anti-government, anti-establishment kind of thing.
Yeah, and anti-Black, anti-Hispanic, it's
Right.
They're just making use of the opportunity.
Lewis, I would like to thank you for doing my segment, I Fucking Hate White People. It was going to be Tucker Carlson, but that's an easy one.
Right.
So,
I'm
Lewis,
like-
thank you for that contribution.
What happened to Tucker's bow ties? I'm like, what the hell, Tucker? Like,
Yeah.
that's your brand. What the hell? Like, where are the bow ties? I'm a little ticked.
Can
Probably
I
he
say
got
that-
off set one night and someone came off and went, "You're looking a little cucky."
oh, okay. Those kind of movements always happen since Reconstruction. Reconstruction
Always.
happens. People of color are elected to the House of Representatives and the Congress for the first time. So the Ku Klux Klan is born, and they try desperately to get this Civil War to start all over again. And then, LBJ passes the Civil Rights Act, and then, people in the South try again. The certain movements are women who are members of the freedom people or whatever start putting up statues celebrating civil rights, celebrating Confederate soldiers and stuff like that, just to try and get the, just to light that spark. I don't think like that's, I don't think that race war that they're desperate for is ever going to happen. And even if it does happen, they're going to lose. But
So they're looking for a race war.
yeah. And that's, like if you like, I did this show in St. Louis years ago, and I met a lot of people who, explained to me under no uncertain circumstances that, people in the South, they've never lost the desire to fight the Civil War over again. It never, and we don't talk about it, and you don't see it in American media, but it's alive and well in the South, the bitterness over the loss of the Civil War.
Right.
Can I also add that the race war isn't going to happen because it's already been won? You're not going to have 10 to 13 max percentage of the population with no standing militia or military winning a race war against a well-armed majority of a population. That race war was won.
It really does feel like there is a race war, though, but it's a different race war because you've got sort of like Black people and Asian people and Hispanic people and brown people, and now a bunch of white women, which is kind of weird, but all on the same side,
Sometimes linking hands to protect Black protesters. Every now and again, white women link hands.
I think he was going
the
in the opposite
anti-Karen.
direction.
The anti-Karen, yeah. And when the anti-Karen and the Karen meet, they annihilate each other.
No.
I know. But that's how
Were you
you
going
run
in a
into
different
Starship
direction?
Enterprise.
Honestly, it turns into the worst Pottery Barn. That's what happens.
Well, I just think it's interesting, right? It's like almost like it is a race war, but I think this sort of Trump supporters are starting to lose, and it's fucking them up, right?
Yeah.
Because think how many people of color there are in North America now.
I think it's a
there's a lot.
reestablishing of that power. It's not that.
I think it's an attempt. It's an attempt to.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But it's just population. I mean, it's literally just numbers.
Yeah.
There's just too many people of color, and we're multiplying. Was that weird?
We're horny as fuck. We just want to fuck. That's what
Bobby,
we're like.
watch this transition. Bobby, you mentioned cancel culture.
Oh, here we go.
Here we
Oh,
go.
no.
Bye-bye.
And
Hold on.
part of what's been canceled, of course, is theater.
Say it.
Theater has been canceled. And
Uh-oh.
Say it.
one of the theaters that had to cancel their whole season is Stratford.
Ah!
And recently, Stratford.
You did it. You did it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you
Recently,
did it.
Stratford did a YouTube video with people of color at Stratford, just talking about their experience and diversity and stuff. And I thought that was very interesting. but it also brought to light, you know, people are trying to start a movement also to have people of color in the arts talk about their experience and talk about like, well, you know, I mean, yes, we're talking about police violence, and yes, we're talking about stuff that's happening with George Floyd, but also there's stuff happening in Canada, in our green rooms, in theater, in
A black friend of mine tweeted the other day, and I liked the shit out of it because
Mhm.
and I just was like, wow, how far have we come? At least as a conversation, like where is this shit going? He goes, wouldn't it be interesting if Stratford only had actors of color?
whoa,
It was like,
Right.
whoa, where
Right.
are we
Wow.
going?
Well, first-
I was
First of
like,
all,
I will favorite that shit. Let's see
if
what
that
happens.
ever happened, you would see such a
God.
drop in the sales of fudge and ornamental candles
yeah.
in the Stratford area. It would just be like, that does it. I'm gonna go buy it on Etsy.
Yeah.
I will
Um,
say the balls. I think it was Ryan G. Hines. The balls. I loved it. It was, you know, it was so provocative, but in an innocent way. Obviously, it's not like people are advocating for something like that, but it's like the fact that thought is starting to occur to people
But you know,
is quite dangerous for, you know, the establishment, I think.
Bobby, but you know, like you're just copying stuff that's been said before. Like I've been doing some research from Now Magazine, like the editorials in Now Magazine, and basically, you know, like you're just stealing stuff from what other people say. There's this one quote here that I got from Now Magazine. I have to commend Glenn Sumi for writing about Andrew Moody and Stratford in Now, April 17th to 23. Very informative and ballsy. Stratford's elitist and disproportionately white contingent has been killing me for years. I want to thank him for having the balls to be a real journalist. Oh, Bobby Del Rio. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's a direct quote. Now,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, right? I mean,
Broken
it's like-
record.
Broken record. man.
my activism
Fucking
really
broken record.
my activism in this area started with your Now cover, and then I wrote that letter, and then all this shit happened, and then look at all the change at Stratford now. Look,
I know.
I mean, I think part of it's fucking bullshit, but part of it is real change,
Mhm.
and even the fact that, look, I don't think anyone is advocating like get rid of the white people. Not any rational person, you
No.
know what I mean?
Not with Todd here, no.
Can we get rid of Todd?
No, I even
But the fact
married a
that
white
people are
person.
willing to say that out loud, where it's actually a possibility, and it actually is a possibility. Like you could do a season with only people of color. There's that
Mhm.
many qualified actors to perform
Oh,
at
absolutely.
that level.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Um,
amazing.
I agree. I think I'm going to say something that's going to get me in so much trouble.
Here we go.
It's about
Yep.
time.
Oh my God, I'm going to say something that's going to because
Oh, this
what
is
can
gonna be
happen-
good.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Uh,
oh, okay.
in my experience, though, sometimes too you get theaters where you know everybody's of color, and you think everybody would love each other and be so
Oh,
respectful
fuck
to
no.
each other and be nice to each other, and it doesn't
Mhm.
No.
happen.
No.
And people
Wait, are we talking
so
about the completely
mean.
full of shit theater community?
What was
Yeah,
that?
I said it. You're all full of shit.
It
Almost all of you.
I know.
it happened at my place of work. Andrew Alexander, the CEO of Second City, he stepped down
That's right. Yeah.
because
Did
he
he?
didn't
Oh,
do,
yeah.
in his words, he did not do enough because Second City just got lit up while this was going on because they had sent out a solidarity message for Black Lives Matter, and then a lot of their BIPOC former cast members went, "Oh,
Oh,
really?"
no.
and just
Man.
started dropping receipts on the table. And
Yeah.
That's like- When the Me Too movement happened, there was this fucking pervert who was like, "Oh, for any woman, if I've ever made you feel uncomfortable, let me know." And 8 women were like, "You touched my tits at a party."
Yeah,
the guy got
yeah,
fucking fired in 12 hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew Alexander came out and he said, it's obvious I didn't do enough. And he kind of took the mantle like that. And he just said the next CEO will be a person of color, which is great. And I'm looking forward to see my career dwindle in that organization as a middle-aged white man. That's fine.
On the
But
verge of retiring.
exactly. You know, I'm good. I'm
No,
good.
see, you're
Fine.
good, Todd, because
Yeah.
we're gonna hire you.
Okay, good. Thank you. You guys are great. I love quotas. But here's the thing, like, and this is exactly why I love my wife, because she gets it. We were having lunch the other day when this news broke, and I went, "Well, the CEO of my company that I work for just quit." And she's like, "Why?" And I explained it to her. She's like, I never would have thought, and this is Andrew's point exactly. It's like, I never would have thought that, that there would be any sort of like racial tensions or anything like that in the theater community. I thought because they're so progressive that, this wouldn't happen. And then she paused and went, now me too, absolutely, but not.
I know. I actually worked at.
I married the right woman.
I worked at Second City for a summer. I was taking over for a black actor who had left to go do a Saturday Night Live, and
Chris Rock.
Yeah, it was great. Racist though, racist.
Right.
I'm kidding. But and I didn't. It's funny, like I didn't find. I wasn't there long enough to have experienced any racism. I just wasn't there long enough. And also too, I was coming in to replace somebody who was like leaving in like the next week. So I just had to like learn my lines and just get out there and just do the stuff. So I didn't experience necessarily anything from management. They seemed kind of nice and they seemed kind of innocuous, and they sort of like just saw me as like somebody who's going to stop a leak, like they were just like, oh, you're here, you're good, you're going to learn lines. Okay, great. And they just moved on. They didn't care about me. The thing that I found really racist was the stuff that I was meant to say on the stage. Really bad, like, oh, I'm a black person who smokes a lot of dope. Ha 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 ha.
That's interesting, Andrew. What was your character?
No, exactly. But however, I just and the other problem with it though was that the stuff that I was saying, which I found racially insensitive, was created by a black creator. And so, and also he was American too. So, and I don't know why he was in Toronto. I guess maybe he was in Toronto because it was the only Second City he could get into or whatever.
So I got a scholarship to Second City, right? So I did 10 levels. I was in conservatory. I'm going to try not to just slam people, but there was one of my teachers was a white woman. Yeah. And I'm the only minority in the class, okay? So there's 12 people, all white, and then there's me. She decides we're doing an Osama bin Laden sketch, and I'm going to play Osama bin Laden.
Of course you are.
Okay? So I start playing Osama bin Laden, and I'm like, hey guys, like what's going on? Like I'm talking like this, and I'm playing them up in my kind of funny, almost cartoons, and they're like, and she stops the sketch immediately. She's like, no, I need you to do like a thick Arab accent. I go, okay, hold on here. Yeah. So you just want me to play a stereotype because I'm the ethnic guy? Is that what's up? She lost her shit. Everybody leave the room. Like,
wow.
Yeah. It was fucking bullshit. But I was like, fuck you, bitch. Like, I am not gonna like just play. I'm not, gonna play all of your ethnic stereotypes in a non-ironic way. Yeah. Like I'll do it if I can spin it and make it interesting. But I'm not just gonna be an ethnic stereotype.
Good for you. And also, she should have known better than to mess with Bobby Del Rio. Really?
Yeah.
She's gonna mess with Bobby Del Rio?
Yeah.
Not a smart.
I remember there was an Asian writer who I really, really respected as a writer. I guess I can use Gene Yu.
Gene Yu, yeah.
He used to write some beautiful stuff on the Korean-Canadian experience. And I ran up on her on the street, and she had just been in a meeting with a broadcaster. And this goes back to your story about the black creator writing stereotypical stuff. And I believe it's a long time ago, so if I get corrected, I get corrected. She had written, I believe it was a series where the lead was Asian and possibly an East Asian woman. And it was turned down at, I think, pretty well every broadcaster she had gone to. And very politely, but she had talked to some people of color that worked with those broadcasters who were quite vehement in telling her that you cannot bring a lead of color to this broadcaster. You can do, you can do a secondary lead, right? You can do a supporting lead. You can, and this is what people of color are. In other words, we have made it in this industry by playing the game, by writing to the game.
The Canadian film and television industry is one of the most conservative run arts industries. Like, people in America are like, oh, you know, the film industry is run by communist, pinko, gay liberals or whatever. But in Canada, that's what they love to say that.
Right.
But they should come to Canada, because the executive producers, the broadcasters, the people I've talked to are card-carrying, you know, conservative. I've heard some of the most. I had one person say to me, I read your script, and when I saw that there was a cripple in it, I couldn't take it seriously. I had one producer say to me, oh, we don't hire we don't hire Indians because they're trouble. I've had someone say to me, like, it just goes on and on. Oh, you know, I was hired on by this group of people who wanted to do a pilot for a TV show. And I suggested adding a black character, and I was told by the rest of the writer's room, oh, I wouldn't feel comfortable writing for a black character, and we all have to write them, so we're just not going to have a black character. And I just sat there going, why am I here?
Right.
It's so, and also too, like, I understand that tension of, oh, we hired the black person, but we don't want him to think we just wanted to write black people. But also, which I get, but also I'm okay with it. I'm cool. I would rather write a black person for your TV show from a deep truth than, you know,
Then have a white guy do it.
Well, I don't want to say that, because also I write white people and I write women and I write, you know, so I think it's a sort of a fine freaking line that we all have to walk as artists. But at the same time, if you hire me, like, it's okay to have a black character in a show. It doesn't have to be the lead, I know.
The thing that I'm finding interesting about the next wave of writers, especially coming out of Toronto or multicultural centers, beforehand, my generation of writers, white writers, I would not have wanted to write a black character. It was not in their experience. It was totally. I remember seeing Corner Gas, the movie, where they tried, because I really respected the show. I thought the show nailed its demographic like no other show I'd seen.
Oh my God. And it was so popular. It was very popular.
Absolutely. And a lot of respect for them, but then they did the multi-culti thing and they didn't have the chops. Right. So for me, I'm seeing white writers, like I've run up on some white folk 30 and under, right, that have told me I was the only white kid in my class, right, who have lived an experience surrounded by people of color in the same way that people of color have lived a life surrounded by white folk. So that this next, or the generation after this of white writers, coupled with writers of color, can actually write accurately to the mosaic that is Toronto and multicultural societies. It's not there yet, but I think these next generation of raised in multiculturalism white writers are going to be powerhouses as well as.
I agree with you, but I am so flipping sick and flipping tired of hearing from broadcast executives, from executive producers I talk to, oh, we really wish we could get you a showrunner of color, but there are just no showrunners of color who just have the experience.
This is the problem, right? The boss is still
there have been writers of color for flipping years
Yeah.
And you don't want to have to use me. I don't care. Like this isn't an ego thing. I swear to God. But back in 1990, flippin' 5, there were other
Just say fuck.
writers of color like me.
Like once.
I'm angry now. You know I'm angry when I say flippin'.
Oh,
So,
testy, Andrew.
here's the deal.
Testy.
There
He's like,
are
flippin'
women
and
of color.
flippin'.
I won't say their names because I don't want to sort of throw them into like a
Claire.
No, there are women of color who are great writers who can write TV up like ease, like it flows out of them, and they knew they didn't have a chance. They knew, and I would suggest them, and the broadcasters would say, "Well, she doesn't have experience, or whatever," and I'm just, and it makes me so freaking angry because I can think of 3 women right now of color, some who have won flippin' awards, who could be running shows, who could be doing this, that, and the other thing, and there's no frickin' way a broadcaster back in 1995 or 1990 or 2000 or 2005, these women would not have been considered, and they're flippin' talented. They've won frickin' awards.
Doing it on purpose.
But one question really, and I think this goes to the heart of the matter. Could they at that time written authentically
Yes.
a show,
Yes.
an episode of
Yes.
Pit Pony?
Yes.
Pit Pony.
Yes.
Look,
Pit Pony,
any
yes.
brilliant writer can write
Yes.
anything, any genre.
It was a joke, dude.
I know,
That joke
but I
fell
mean,
flat.
don't joke with me when I'm saying flipping. Do not
I love
joke
when
with me.
Andrew gets angry that it sounds like his phone autocorrecting ducking. You know?
Look, to take everything full circle, right? It's funny, you know, I'm consuming all this media news content with the George Floyd protests and all these, you know, sort of opinions on race. It's always white people talking. It's like you have like anti-black violence demonstrations, it's just white people doing 90% of the talking. And this is the problem, right? So you look at the Canadian entertainment industry, and you have a lot of talented people of color, right? I've been around 20 years. Moody's been around much longer, right? It you know, Lou's been around for 90 years.
See my guns?
Touch the white guy.
That's my key.
No, but the talent has been there for so long. The opportunity has not, because the boss is always the same. And even when ethnic content gets made, you have to now frame it through the lens of the white man. So now you have this sort of stereotype of your own culture. So even when you're creating your own culture, you're not doing it authentically, right? You can't be honest about your experience, you know?
I have to say this very carefully, because there's
Are you going to be using flipping?
no, man. Oh, you just wait.
I'm going to turn the volume up for this.
Because there's a person of color who is involved with a broadcaster. I'm so trying to be careful. Who had a show go into production at a broadcaster, and it was the person of color's idea. And what I saw behind the scenes, it's not the show you think. It's not the show you think. So whatever show you think it is, it's not, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, and I don't want to start a thing.
I'm not going to say anything.
But from what I know as a fact behind the scenes, is this person of color who started the show was why am
Just
I
say it.
So
Just
people
say
know
it.
what the
Just
show is.
blame
No.
me.
People know what the
Blame
show
me.
is.
No, you
Just
don't
say,
know the
I
show.
told you the story.
Dude, it's okay. Mr. D is off the air. Go nuts.
Shut up,
Go
man.
nuts.
Shut up. But it's to get the show made, this person had to agree to work with some old white dude, and I have no problems with old white dudes, but the old white dude was not as talented as the person of color. That he just wasn't. He had created bullcrap for his entire flipping career. And
Oh, but he's white.
if you're gonna get an old white dude, get Aaron Sorkin. He's a great old white dude. If you're gonna get an old white dude, get a talented one. But to get somebody who's gonna ruin it, and the flipping guy ruined it, and there's no way you
But
can't
that would
go.
ruin the CBC name in the hat.
But I don't
formula that
understand
they
what you're
do.
saying. It
They
wasn't
just
necessarily
take
CBC.
a bunch of white guys, they put them in a hat, and then they take one out. They go, okay, this will be your showrunner.
Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
what I'm struggling with right now. I really shouldn't be saying this. I'm going to ruin my career, but because
You
I'm
didn't
working
have
on
one.
Yeah, I know exactly. I don't have one anyway. And you know, it's funny because I was talking to one executive producer guy who said to me, you know, well, why haven't you, like, you've been writing for years and you've been, all these other playwrights have become showrunners and stuff, but you haven't. So what's the deal? And I didn't say anything, but
Because they're
ultimately,
white.
I'm not gonna say anything. But no,
That's
it's
all it is.
but also too, maybe I'm not talented. Maybe I'm not talented.
Oh
Which is
yeah,
fine.
right. Yeah,
I mean,
right.
no, it easily.
Fucking
That's
bullshit.
fine. Here's
You're
the thing.
fucking awesome.
There are a lot of people who have no talent who make a lot of money. So I just
Listen to
it's
what
fine.
he's saying. Maybe he
It's
doesn't
fine.
have any.
But here's the thing. Like ultimately, the thing that I'm trying to create, it's just an authentic piece that deals with people of color, and
no one wants that.
ultimately, it's just really hard. And maybe it's going to get a little better, you know. People
If I
keep
could
saying to
give
me,
you-
"Oh, Andrew, no,
No,
this is the
no.
time for people of color. This is the time to do it." White men, people are saying to me, "Oh, dude, I'm a white guy. I'm done. It's done. I can't get anything done now." It's like, yeah, sure.
I
But
do have a
anyway.
criticism of your work, though. Honestly,
Hmm?
you're not quite adept at being white. I think
I could be
think
better.
I like the frickins
I could be
instead of the
better.
fucking. Like I like that was close.
Yeah.
But the skin color's all wrong.
Smashing
You know,
Pumpkins, my favorite
Can
band.
we-
Yeah.
did-
That do anything?
Yeah, okay.
Closer.
Getting there.
I really don't want to really have Andrew explain how white he is. I
'Cause I could go
don't
there.
need that level of pain.
I could go.
But I think the whole thing is also, though, one of the things that stood out for me going to meetings was, yes, there's the whole white thing, but there's also the culture of success, right? In that culture, and a lot of it has to do with brown nosing, right? Like you get ahead.
Moody kisses everybody's
through-
ass.
Oh, so hard.
You
Look
get
at this now.
ahead.
He's good at it.
Yeah, you get ahead.
Only I can make that joke. Sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have.
Okay,
so
shut
terrible.
the fuck up and let me finish.
I should. Sorry, Lewis. I love you. Go.
Oh, you get ahead through understanding that your progress is based on how well you serve the needs of those above you. You don't fuck up, you don't contradict them, you don't rock the boat. That will determine the success. That will determine your trajectory. And anyone, black or person of color, that comes into that fucks up the whole system. It is no longer about how you serve, it's about how you are replacing.
To add to that, to like, I so agree with you. I do know, and this is me. This is me being nice to white people. I know some like white performers who are really talented, but they just don't know how to play the game.
No.
They just don't. So they're like, and so
Right
I
here.
understand. I know, right?
Right here.
I know.
There you
It's
go.
so frustrating.
Yeah.
There's so many people. I've seen this story so many times. Doesn't matter whether you're white, black, male, female, gay, straight, or whatever. Every now and again, there'll be somebody who's got enormous talent, very funny, very talented, whatever, but they don't know how to play the system.
Look, if you're not white, it doesn't matter how well you play the game because they don't want you to be the fucking boss because then you're going to change shit. They don't want you
Well,
to
why would
change
they?
shit.
Why would they? What's
But also
what's
too,
That's
like,
it.
But also
What's
too,
that
like,
for?
there's something fundamentally unfair and flipped up about
Whoa.
art. I said flipped up. That's true.
Whoa.
Because
yeah,
art
that
is
makes no
subjective.
sense.
I know.
Dude
yeah,
is fucking lit.
Fuck you.
at the end of the day, like your work of genius script, it's like there's so many stories of like, well, Mad Men.
Yeah.
Matt Weiner showed the script for Mad Men around to everybody. Nobody freaking wanted to do it. Breaking Bad. Nobody wanted to do Breaking Bad. AMC was like, well, we're desperate. We just need anything, and we'll do it. So even for white dudes, it's hard. I get that. And even for
But they get
talented white
their
dudes, it's
shit
hard.
made. They get their shit made eventually.
And
Some of them,
Yeah.
very few of them get to play in the sandbox.
But they
Yeah.
do get to play.
Very few.
And I
Like,
will
don't-
say, Sutherland and Jen, his wife, they have just bust through. They have just like,
Yeah.
they're like, I don't care. Like, they have
Yeah.
no time. They've got
Yeah.
stuff done. They've got stuff made, and they've got good stuff made because they were just like, what barrier do you have? Because we're just going to go through it.
They
Just
get a
tell us-
lot
They
of roadblocks too, you know.
Yeah, but they also set up intelligently because they're both skilled game players and incredibly intelligent. They set up networks,
Yeah.
right? They figured out who they could work with, and they've got a cohort of people of color and white folk that are totally in sync with them, that are like, because it's all networks. If you can't, and this is where a lot of us coming into the industry come out of it as like lone dogging it, right? I'm coming up as the individual. I'm the lone wolf. I'm coming at not realizing that this is about the game. This is the network. I have seen so many people fail because on set they hang in a corner out of fear because they're not used to being in an all-white environment, right? And I saw this on my own shoot where the sound guys, two black guys, really good, really on the game, would not mingle, and the other black guy, because there wasn't many, AD was like, "Hey, how you doing, everybody?" Hey. And that motherfucker was making connections like crazy.
But I
Yeah.
think there's a point where it stops, right? So I think you can kiss the ass. Sure, it works. That's how people get in the room. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the system. That's what I'm saying.
No,
Like,
I'm saying
we're
that's the
talking
system.
about, but you can't, because the thing is, if you really want to have power to change the system, a white guy needs to bring you up where you have a position to actually change it, and they do not want that
Yeah.
system to change.
Which,
There's
if you look at the most recent One Day at a Time, where they made it Latinx, that was a Norman Lear project, and so he's at least helping to buoy sort of
Yeah.
that. In my work at Second City, where I'm teaching stand up, I am seeing a huge throughput. Like whenever I used to walk into the classroom, now it's opening up my screen and seeing all the little squares of people that I'm talking to. And more I am seeing less people that look like me, and I'm seeing more women. I am seeing more people of color. I'm seeing more LGBTQ. I'm seeing all of this, and I become so invigorated by that because I get to try and learn about you so that
Yeah.
I can help you write a joke about you, and it helps me understand your experience.
so I
And
can feel your shit.
Yeah. So like, I get to go as like, okay, how would I address this as a lesbian? How would I address
There you
this
go.
as a person of color? How would I address this, as a neighbor?
Can I
Cancel
add to that?
again.
Can I add to that point
Cancel
though? That's how you learn how to be a diverse writer coming from a white community.
Yeah.
Right? You embrace it and you learn how to write something you never knew how to write before. Yeah. And I also say though that I think there's also more and more people of color in positions that like we're no longer mavericks to the degree that we were, that there are people that have reached some of the highest echelons of the industry, not necessarily here, but in the States, who can now communicate and accurately to folks coming up say, this is the game. Let me shorten the amount of time you're going to be frustrated.
That's very true. Like, it's very different from the 80s where, good luck to you.
Yeah.
But now, like, even in England, my sister works in England, and there are people of color in positions of power at agencies, at the BBC. There's change happening with women getting into positions of power that they haven't been in before. So things are changing slowly, but things are changing. So I do accept that.
Yeah.
And also to add to that, like, to what you're saying, Lewis, I mean, there's, and what you were saying, Bobby, as well. Every now and again, there's a Spike Lee who goes, I don't care.
Yeah.
I know that I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
There's a Shonda Rhimes who's like, I know I'm not supposed to be here, but guess what? I'm here. And Shonda's really talented. Now she's a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
So it's every now and again, like, what happens is somebody breaks through. It's like the weed that breaks through the concrete, it just has this will to live.
I'm waiting to see it in Canada, I'll tell you that.
That's slowly, I mean, there's Suds, Suds and Jennifer. There's Floyd Kane's coming up.
Yeah.
right? You've got people, and on the Asian side of thing, you'd know better. Like, okay, I'm a co-runner, co-creator, whatever, of a group called Working the Scene in Color. And we've had...
I've been waiting for, it's like, how long is he going to be before he starts bringing it up? How long? Anyway, go. Finally.
Okay. So we've been, I guess we're on our 10th one or something like that. Anyways, we had from the get-go major support from some white female producers who connected us in a way that we could not have connected if they didn't see it aligned with their own progressive belief systems, but also they saw, not necessarily with me, but with my partner, Jessica, they saw the future of the industry, right? And they were like, fuck it, ground floor. Right? This is what I believe in. I'm going for it. And there was support. And they introduced us to more and more people. On the grassroots side of things, writers of color have been coming, like just astounding works from writers of color. And the intersection of talent crossing race lines in an environment that, not that it's fostering it, but where it can't be stopped, where that shift can't be stopped, is really amazing to watch, especially when, I started this in 1980. I started in this industry, and it's been a pretty interesting ride.
I'll believe it when the boss isn't white. When you don't have to send your fucking multicultural application to a white boss, then I'm on board. Until then, it's a bunch of bullshit. As far as I'm concerned.
I don't necessarily trust all that many people of color either.
I know, yeah. I was going to say, like, I don't care if the boss is white or black or whatever, just as long as they're open. Like,
the game is on.
Like, one of the things I've always said, because people have accused me of being anti-white, and it's like, okay, fine, whatever. But what I've always said...
I married one of y'all. I can't be racist.
Exactly. My wife is right, so
my kids are like your people.
Exactly.
Actually, Andrew, I think you were right on the first time you said that.
Exactly. But honestly, though, like what I've always tried to communicate is, for me, the arts is like a giant slide in the playground, and everybody can have a turn on the slide. Everybody. Like, it doesn't matter. So, to that end, we've had an epic episode of Upload. This has been epic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
Fuck you, Todd.
Oh my God. No, you're
shut up, Todd.
Me.
Todd, shut the fuck up.
I love Asian people.
Jesus.
I'm not racist. What
the hell? I just lost control.
Peace out, mother flippers.
You mother flippers out there, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you later. This has been Upload. Take care. Bye-bye.